a full-on Trump supporter. Because he basically pushed us into more of an autonomous idea of who we are. We have had to go on a search, on a quest to find ourselves, as it were. And we're still on that quest. USA, please help. Yes. USA, tell us what to do. No. You know what I mean? That's basically.
I agree with that. I think. What else is it? When it comes to what is it? Oh, I lost it. But when it comes to working with with this CCP, China, USA kind of Cold War, what kind of seems appealing to me about it is the USA is focusing a lot of its resources on the South China Sea in Asia and not as much on the EU and Europe. And I think the benefit for that is it takes away the US's focus, as it only can't spend resources everywhere in equal amounts. And I think that allows the EU to federalize, and the USA is not gonna, since it's focused on China, it's not gonna have as much of a problem with that, at least for now. Maybe that's me being idealistic.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is that in 4 years that could change. The EU is more of a river which you manage, whereas the foreign policy of the EU is more of a river that you manage, and the US foreign policy is more of a jackknife. Left, right, left, right, left, right. So we can't rely on what the United States does. When it comes to vaccines, whether it comes to
I agree with that.
The projection of power, those kind of things.
Yes,
on the other hand, they are our allies. I think they should remain our allies. And we're nowhere near the point that we can say that we are strategically autonomous yet. And until then, we will need our allies. And the biggest way is
but do
good friends.
Do you believe the USA in some ways hampers the EU's ability to federalize? Because I'm not entirely sure if it's in their strategic interest to allow the EU to do that.
Actually, yes. Although in the long term, yes. In the short term, no. So if the EU becomes, it federalizes, when it comes to foreign policy, it helps the US, to be honest. Even if we don't agree on everything, when it comes to foreign policy, you have the big powers, and what we have going, and it's something that no one else does, to be honest, right? At least as of now, you have all the superpowers. Each one is by itself. Then you have the EU and the US, which are together, which makes us be bigger together than anyone else. Since China is alone, Russia is alone. Well, Russia is not even a superpower, but at least it tries.
Yes.
But Russia is alone, China is alone, India is alone. Everyone, everywhere you can see, they're all alone. Sometimes they might have, they kind of help each other in some things. For example, China and Russia kind of work together in some things when it comes to some smaller stuff. But they're enemies, they're not allies. They can, they have some strategic interests that can align sometimes, but they're not allies, they're enemies. Meanwhile, the EU and the US...
China as well, don't forget, because, since we're talking about the India summit that's coming up, India and China have a long history of being enemies as well. And since China is encroaching into places like Pakistan and Afghanistan now, it's very, we will probably see overtures to that effect coming from the Indian side. And also another aside is that this week, for example, Germany has sent warships into the South China Sea. So, there are things happening, we are taking stances on issues, and because Germany does this unilaterally, that means that there can't be, the European Union, as it were, can't effectively respond as one entity. So it's very important.
I was going to mention
the member states also have a responsibility in slowing that down, I think.
Yes, you have the interest of the member states who might have different foreign policies.
That are going on different sides of this. So,
Yes.
I mean, federalization, I don't expect to see happen in my lifetime, to be honest.
Yeah, the foreign policy of France and its focus on Africa is going to be very different than the foreign policy of Germany. Just look at the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And I don't know if we can get to federalism, but I think what I'd like to see is maybe an EU tax agency to just have the power to directly tax something. It's not a federation in name, but it's can we get closer?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's
my question
the
is,
federalization part of it. But I mean, if you look at the wider picture of what that would achieve worldwide, is I think we would be as Europe would start to become a superpower, and I think when you talk about, for example, the EU India summit is going to be mostly about trade and the COVID vaccine patent release. But if the EU had more competency in, for example, foreign policy of its member states, or had its own military and like you say, a taxation system as well, there would be more that the EU could do for in shaping EU India relations.
Yeah, the issue is that will require a new treaty.
Summit will be, it'll be a nice summit. It'll be nice to see Modi here and ask him nice questions about what the hell is going on in his country. But on the other hand, I don't think that this is going to be the first summit of many that will be needed to pull India and the southeast of Asia into our collective kind of sphere of influence by trade deals or whatever. So,
hopefully India becomes our ally, right? At least at some point.
I mean, as a democracy, you'd expect him to have done it by now, but
it's a democracy. It's not yet quite a liberal democracy.
Yeah, okay, but it's the biggest one. It's the biggest one.
Yes,
so,
it is. Well, you do have the EU elections, and I guess if you combine all of those together into Parliament,
India is still bigger.
Yeah. How many does India have?
India has 1 billion people. You know what I mean? It's twice the size of what the EU is. So,
oh wow, that's quite large. But I think, I think some of the things you mentioned, like unified foreign policy. I mean, these things are great, but two issues I have with that is one, right now, I'd like to have the Parliament have more power, because right now you have the Council, the Commission that wield those, and those are not elected directly by EU citizens. So in a sense, it's still controlled by the member states.
Yeah, true.
In that way. And the other issue is that a lot of that would require policy or would require treaty changes with the measures and the Lisbon Treaty. I think, the reason I bring up the taxation thing is because can that be done with the current treaties without violating the power of direct taxation?
I don't know. I've got some people that I can ask about that, but we'll have to see. I mean,
the thing
it's going to be...
So when it comes to the EU, when it comes to the treaties we have right now, there's things that you can obviously do, and there's stuff that you might be able to do because no one, you can't do, but you can try to, and maybe you can at the end. So, for example, what we're doing when it comes to the rule of law in Poland, it's mostly the Court of Justice that is deciding how it works. We can, we already have, the EU already has a combat group, a battle group, so kinda already has its military power. So there's literally, in theory, you could say, let's make the battle group bigger, and it becomes the EU army. Like it's at some point it's mostly when it comes to the law you can I don't want to say that you can change it without changing it, because it's not that
you can kind of push the limit a little bit to say what's unwritten.
Yes, the limits are not that well defined, let's put it that way. So it's more about the political will to push the limits to the limit, I guess.
So giving things like the Parliament more power, the ability to rate legislation, that will clearly require a treaty change unless you just ignore the treaties, which is not going to happen.
Then you have to remember there's the power de facto, like the jure, the one that you have written, and
yes,
the one de facto. For example, I think a good example, since we have the EU case that did what it did, so the referendum wasn't legally binding. By law, it wasn't, but de facto, it kind of was. They had to
Which
do it.
referendum?
The Brexit one. By law, it wasn't. They didn't have to follow it.
Yes, that is true. But that would, if they didn't follow it, that would be kind of undermining democracy a bit.
Well, not necessarily, to be honest. But the thing is,
it looks bad.
The thing is, it's not. It's simply a matter of sometimes the law, even if there's not a law that says something, there's the expectation that you do it, and the political weight of people in a country telling you to do something and you do it still. So, for example, if for some reason every European expected that the EU does something, if the EU doesn't and the member states don't let the EU do it, we do kind of have that problem because it's a bit harder to say to a member state, like go to the government and say why you are not letting the EU do that. It's a bit harder to do. It's another link, so it's harder to do. But in theory, it's something that can happen. You could have in the future the EU having powers that it doesn't actually have by law, but it just has it because people expect the EU to be able to do that and would be angry if the member state doesn't let the EU do that.
Exactly.
For example, when it comes to, I think a good example is when it comes to giving powers, when there's a new commission or whatever, there's this, there is no law that says that you have to do that, but what they try to do is to give meaningful positions to each area of the EU, so something to the south, something to the east, something to the north. So you kind of try to make everyone happy. That's not a law. That's just something that we expect the EU to do, and if they don't, we get angry. So just as you have that, in the future you might have other things that you might do, even if there's no treaty change. It's what you have is before you have the people wanting something, and then you have the treaty change to make that something a law.
It's giving Frontex weapons, really, isn't it? I mean, people expect the border guard to be armed.
Have they received weapons? I believe there was a proposal that said that yes, they can have weapons, but I believe that's actually against. Is it against the treaty? Some previous legislation prevents Frontex from having weapons.
But you know that's already been fixed basically. There are already border guards with weapons on our borders. European border guards. You see, the secondment to these by local authorities as well. They're all armed. So
yes, I know the EU member state. Those are armed. I'm asking about Frontex directly having its own weapons.
Now they're all armed, so is what I'm saying. So,
very
that's
nice.
Something we expect from the EU, and it can act on around the treaties, as it were. There's always
makes sense.
Yeah, you have to remember that laws are mostly what people want, kinda. So if there's a law isn't what we want it to be, you can have it changed. The thing is, when it comes to treaty change, the reason why it's so hard to do is because you can't have everyone agreed on that, so it's harder to do. But when it comes to some other things, you can have such a widespread approval and the people expecting something, so you end up having it. And to some degree, you can see that happening with COVID as well. For example, people expected the EU to be more present and be a more central figure and do stuff, and after a short while, after the initial phases where the EU wasn't able to do much, because when it comes to healthcare, it's the EU doesn't have it doesn't have any power there, right?
Yes, it's only to the member states.
But what we ended up having is the EU becoming the central stage, and you ended up having the COVID recovery funds. Now we are talking about having an EU-wide vaccine passport. So even if it doesn't have that power, it kind of ended up having it to some degree still. So
I think with the 750 billion euro next gen EU fund, which I was quite happy about, did we ever resolve the issue with Germany? And says the own resources decision that need to be ratified by all of the EU member state governments? Has that been done yet?
Yeah. The High Court is clear, so there is no more obstruction from Germany for that. So that's nice.
Oh, okay. That's quicker than I thought.
That was in the news this week. So when I saw that, I was a happy boy. So
as it was expected to happen.
As it was expected, exactly.
It was. The issue was, even if you delay it, that's a bit of a problem, because you want to get getting the money out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, but politically, Germany didn't want that to happen, so it wasn't going to happen. It's pretty much that.
No. The parliament, I believe, the German parliament did actually ratify. It was about to be signed. Then in kind of an anti-EU group put an injunction to the German Constitutional Court. Said, okay, let's take a look at this. Let's see if
but I'm pretty sure they would have been able to overrule, at least change the rules and do something because.
Well, if it was a constitutional violation, say it was a constitutional violation in Germany.
Yeah, but you can change the constitution.
Believe me, I wish it was that easy.
It depends on the country. In the Netherlands, it's really hard.
Yeah, in Germany, I believe it's also incredibly hard, depending on what part it is. They actually have these things called eternity clauses, I believe, that can never be changed, theoretically.
Yeah, but everything can be changed.
German politics to me is rather opaque because past the federal level, it's very hard to kind of get into all the laws. And I mean, it's in most EU countries, by the way. I mean, because we're old democracies, as it were. I mean, some of our democracies are quite young when it comes to,
and some are not really around anymore. Such as Poland.
Behind it is fast, and we can see that in how it manifests basically in the wider perspective that you have of a country. So it's very hard for me to say what's going on internally in Germany. You have to be a German.
So with that fund, that 750 billion euro fund, it's supposed to be funded through a digital tax and I think a financial transaction tax. I question, because I believe, was it the Netherlands that tried an option tax? One of the EU member states, one European country tried a financial transaction tax, and it killed that market. So but again, I think for me, if it collects any money, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that going to be how it's done now, where, like, take VAT, for example, or the member states, they give contributions to the EU. The EU doesn't collect that money directly. With this fund, is it going to be, say, that digital transaction tax? Is it going to be collected directly, or is it going to be collected on behalf of the EU by the member states?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, this is going to be an issue for many years to come.
In theory, it's going to be collected from the EU. At least some of those tools are going to be collected directly from the EU. So it's kinda like the EU getting a way to make money, which it already does. By the way, there are some small ways that you can already get directly funds, but it's small stuff.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is those things, I believe it's all collected on behalf of member states. There is no EU tax agency that's responsible for collecting any bit of revenue, and that's the difference that I care about. Even if it's small, it's €1 billion.
Yes, it's the member state that does the collecting, but I don't know that it matters too much. That it's not.
It does. It's an important role for states to be able to collect taxes.
Yes, I understand what you mean, but I don't. I think it's more important that the biggest difference is if the money goes to the member state and then it decides to pay the EU with those money, or if the money goes directly to the EU and is collected by the member state. I think that's a big difference enough. I think in itself that's already enough for now. Obviously, in the future, you would want the EU to do everything.
It's a nice improvement to have money be allocated directly to the EU. But
but it's.
I don't know, I guess for me, I'm a bit impatient. I would like to see the EU directly collect money.
But the thing is, at the end of the day, it doesn't really even matter that much. As long as we live
they're
in.
not going to come to your door, thankfully, you know, and knock on
Yeah,
your
they're
door
gonna.
and ask for 30 euros. You know what I mean?
The thing is, we live in.
Although that would be nice, you know. I would like a little bit of human interaction every now and then. Tax collector.
Oh, that wouldn't be bad. But yeah, I'd like to. So you say it's not a big thing, and I disagree with that. I think it is.
The thing is,
you can collect a
I
little
think
bit
it's
of
not a
tax
big
directly.
deal because
You
it's
can.
European countries, because we live in states of law, we have
Yes.
liberal democracies and everything else that we have.
I mean, those things are great and absolutely important. But I'm saying that.
No, the thing is that since, for example, since Italy has such a complex and um, far-reaching legal system, uh,
Yes.
even if it's tasked with collecting the money and giving it directly to the EU, it's never going to be able to just collect them and not give them to the EU. If by law it can't do that, it will not do that because it can't do it by law. Like since it's a state of law, it's not like Italy
What
is
do
a
you mean? What
person.
do you mean it wouldn't? What do you mean it couldn't do that? Couldn't do what?
Italy can't go against its own laws.
Well, yes. Yes.
So as long as we are talking about states where there's the rule of law, it doesn't really matter if it's the EU or if it's Italy that collects the taxes, as long as those have to directly go to the EU. But that's only because you trust Italy of being a country where there's the rule of law. So
Yeah. Well, that's
Italy
what I'm
can't go
asking
against
you.
it. So as long as we're talking
It's not.
about countries that follow the rule of law,
But I'm saying it's not the
it's
money that matters specifically to me, at least. It's that a small directly collected tax can be expanded. Say it's a small digital tax that could expand to something else, a business tax, then an income tax. You can expand it to about where you pay your EU tax, your federal EU tax,
yeah, you
and
can
you
still
pay
have
your local
you
membership
can still
tax.
do that while it's Italy that does the collecting. I don't think that
I
matters who does the actual
Probably
collecting.
is. Right? I mean, I could see the attraction of having EU taxes collected directly. However, don't forget that adding an extra layer of bureaucracy to a tax system is something that should not be undertaken lightly, because it will cost a lot of money to set up, and will need
Yeah,
good oversight.
I'm not saying that. I see
Which
it
are
as
already
a
there.
way.
The member states all have reasonably good tax collection systems,
Yeah.
definitely compared to the rest of the world. And making another layer inside the EU would, I think, be counterproductive. I mean, as a Dutchman, my heart bleeds every time money is spent. So it's. I think we also have to think about efficiency in this case, and I think that
That
will
is
be
that
more
is
efficient
true,
to
but
have
I see it
private
as
member
I
states.
do understand there's an additional layer of inefficiency to it. But
Yeah.
my view is it might give the EU a lot more power, and that's kind of how I see it. I see it as a way of giving the EU, another element.
Yeah, I could see the point. I mean, my interpretation of this would be the conference for the future of Europe is very important in this, in that
Yeah.
we can push the EU into getting more competency over the member states,
That would be nice.
in things that matter to us as the citizens of the EU. And I think I mean, because of I always like saying. Europe develops best in a crisis, and Europe does
I
really,
agree with
every
that.
time there's a crisis, the more power is transferred to the European Union as a whole,
Yes,
because it's
it's
necessary.
great.
It's a necessary
People
point
realize it's important.
at that stage. So until the next crisis hits, I think we'll have to wait it out. I mean, COVID is really galvanizing things as well. So that's a good thing. The silver lining to something like COVID and
That is
the
true.
financial crisis. And
If
The other
anything,
issue is
I think the next big thing that the EU is going to have, it's going to be the common foreign policy, and the EU army are probably going to come before we have the EU taxation agency and you pay your taxes directly to the EU. I think we are going to
I don't
get
know
an
if
army
most
before we
people
get
pay
that.
taxes. Again,
Yeah.
it can be a very small tax. It applies to,
Oh, it doesn't
large
matter how
companies.
big or small it is. What matters is the symbolically speaking, the one who collects the taxes is the one that has power.
Yes, and that's
That's
why
what
I'd
a
like to have
country
the
is.
EU.
It's something
That's
that
what I'm
collects
saying. I'd like
taxes.
to have the. Yes, and that's why I want the EU to be able to collect taxes.
Yeah, I can understand.
Which is why I'm saying that it's not going to happen anytime soon. We are going to get
Yeah,
an army before we do that.
Well, that's
yeah.
why I mentioned a
Speaking
small.
of things that,
Yes.
that happened this week, is of course the Scottish election.
How did the SNP do?
The final tally is in 64% turnout, and there's been the SNP has already also won 64 seats. So that's one short of a majority, and Nicola Sturgeon is already asking for the next referendum on
Which
the
is
Scottish
stupid of her, but
independence.
yeah. She doesn't even
Well,
have
that's
the
not her.
majority.
It's her party, isn't it?
Yes,
But
that's what she advocates.
that's also that's also an interesting bit, because of course I think we will see an independent Scotland before we see EU taxation. Like taxation.
You know what?
Unfortunately,
I don't agree there.
no,
Because
you don't.
no, because independent Scotland isn't going to happen.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
I have mixed feelings about an independent Scotland. I mean, the UK can kind of do what it wants. The issue that I have with accepting Scotland, so say Scotland becomes independent,
It doesn't.
it's probably going to want to join the. Let's say it does. It's probably going to want to join the EU. Right now, you need to have consensus with 27 member states. That's a lot to get consensus on. And right now, I don't know if Scotland is it like the UK, like the rest of the UK, that's very pro-America and kind of opposes
Yeah,
more EU
no one
integration.
cares.
That's kind of my.
That's not. We care, but when it comes to having a country join, no one cares. It's not about if they like the US more than that or not.
My
It's just
issue,
about
and
having
not
another
the
economic
US
partner.
more. Yes, but I think the issue is if Scotland is going to come together with the EU and prevent further integration,
Yeah, of
like
course
the
it
UK
would.
did.
Yeah, that's what they want to do, but no one cares.
Is Scotland kind of anti-integration, or
Of
they're
course it
kind of they
is.
want to be a trade bloc? I thought there
Scotland
was an
is the
interesting.
UK. You forget that they're still
Yeah,
Brits.
it is. What?
It's just
The
a bunch
what?
of Brits, a bit more on the north, so it's a bit more colder, but still Brits.
That is what the Northern Irish think. They love seeing themselves as Brits, but that's another issue. But I think yes, but they that's the big difference between I think Scotland and Northern Ireland is the Northern Irish want to be Brits and the Scottish don't.
Yeah, but the difference is Northern Ireland. If Northern Ireland breaks free, it can just rejoin Ireland, and that's easy. If Scotland leaves the UK, it gets fucked. So it's not going to.
Well, I don't know about. I mean, there will be an economic hit, but as we know, from the Brexit referendum, populism trumps economics anytime.
Yes, but I can clarify the economics.
There will be.
I can clarify the economics thing a little bit. So when Ireland was part of the Republic of Ireland was part of the UK, most of the trade, since it's part of all one country, was with the rest of the UK. When it left, it eventually had more trade with the ECC, the European Economic Community, the EEC, and then eventually, with the EU. So I don't really buy the economic, especially considering all the resources that Scotland does have. My biggest issue is if it pushes against integration, because you need consensus. One member not being against integration is
I think that's already been figured out, though. I mean, even the Spanish are saying, yeah, sure. I mean, the problem is that it has to happen legally. The UK
so
still
has to happen with Westminster's approval.
Exactly.
If Scotland
they can't just tomorrow rebuild the wall, the Hadrian's Wall, and be done with it.
Yeah, I mean, if Scotland leaves without the UK, without Westminster's approval, the Spanish will never let them in.
Exactly.
I think you're forgetting something. Before the Spanish doesn't let them, the English are not going to let them leave.
Well,
I think you guys do forget that small
they
part.
do have a military, so I mean,
Yeah.
I guess.
But we'll see, we'll see. I mean, this is going to be a developing story in the next few months, so we'll definitely keep our eye on that.
So
I mean, what I'm also seeing is that, in this case, there's also the economic idea that if Scotland leaves and rejoins the EU, will that do more damage to them than Brexit?
Yes.
And that's also
in the short term. So let's think about this a little bit. We have our EU, so they become part of the EU. That takes time. They might get potentially, I don't know how long it will take if they can become part of the EEA and get, the trade access with the EU, or become part of, say, the customs union like Turkey, potentially. Not sure how long that would take.
Years.
Then they have, because the EU-UK trade deal, they can trade goods with the UK all they want. Service equivalence is an issue, but I don't think they export services in that way to the UK very much. I believe it's mainly goods.
I mean, the thing is, they wouldn't be in the euro, and that to them could,
true. That's another issue.
Valued, and they could definitely scoop up a lot of services from London and from the EU in that way. So that's at least, that's a positive.
That is a positive.
Something we'll have to definitely keep our eye on, and maybe even study a little bit more on. So, this is a subject that will keep on developing, I think. And
definitely,
but it's good news to me that the S&P has basically won Scotland. But
I don't really agree that.
I agree with Dante in this way. I don't really want an independent Scotland because I see Scotland being a part of the EU as a potential problem.
I mean, we all do.
In that way of, whereas right now, the best case scenario for Scotland, in my view, as a European federalist, is they go along with integration. Worst case scenario is they halt it. So right now, adding them from this perspective doesn't really help you in a way. It only can really hurt you. Yes, you get more trade with them and such, and that's nice. But at the same time, what are they going to do for integration?
I can tell you what they want to do. They want to leave the UK and still keep the pound. They want to leave the UK and not put up a border with the UK while not caring at all about WTO regulations. They're literally Brexit 2.0. They want to keep the cake and eat it as well. That's why I said they're stupid about it. They don't have any plan.
They want to be independent, make their own decisions, and they're always this kind of, the Scottish should make.
No, what they want is they want the benefits of being in the UK without the the consequences, the costs.
I agree with that.
Which is literally what the Brexit was about. So, as I said, it's literally still Brits acting like Brits.
I think a very realistic scenario, to be honest. A very realistic scenario would be that Scotland would join the EEA instead.
No, the realistic scenario is that no one cares about Scotland in England, and they never get their referendum again. And the Tories keep on winning.
Quite frequently, so we will have to see what happens. This is going to be an interesting one.
As long as the Tories wins, they don't get anything, which is
well, even the Labour Party there, I believe, once they're all unionists.
No, when it comes to Tories, you can count on them. When it comes to Labour, you can count on them on splitting up over that issue. So it doesn't matter. Either way, Scotland is staying there. And if worst comes to worst, England, while weak, it still has some ships and tanks and stuff. It can send some rolling up.
The other thing is it has a military bases there and such and other strategic assets. I really don't think England is going to let Scotland leave that easily.
England up there has oil. There's nothing like oil that moves a country and tanks. So don't worry.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Or you might have I kind of wish the US to come there and save Scotland.
Oh God.
US is gonna be like
bringing some
oil.
freedom to Scotland, you know.
They're going to liberate. They're going to liberate Scotland from themselves.
Yes.
Oh gosh, man! I
Yes.
can't.
All it takes is mentioning oil.
But yeah, the thing is, as I said earlier, the issue when it comes to Scotland is it's those people are living in the same dreamland that Brits
Well,
are more than the
the
South
biggest,
live in.
yeah, but the problem that
They
I
don't
have with
think about
them,
anything real.
but I think the problem that I have with them is they say, Scotland, they want to make more of their own decisions, and that's where I go, I get that. That's kind of nice, but it's also a bit of a problem, since as a European federalist, I want to strip away a lot of their power and give it, to the EU, and I want them to follow along with that. So them pushing to make a lot of their own decisions, kind of not worries me, but just it says like, why would we try to let in a country, make them a member state if they're going to want to make their own decisions and keep being very independent.
They wouldn't. They would never be integrated in the EU. They're not. The people living there. That it's something else that people forget. Even if you see 60 whatever percent people voting to stay in the EU, they voted to stay in the EU they were in, not to stay in a federal EU. They don't
Yes,
want
that's what
the
I'm
euro.
saying.
They want the
see
pound.
see it.
They want to leave
Well,
the UK and keep the pound, join the EU and keep the pound. That's the
I'd like to put a little test to them. Just say if you really want to be a part of the EU, do what Ireland did, which is the Third Amendment, 1972, the Third Amendment, which essentially asserts that, well, for right now, that EU law is above even the Irish Constitution. So if if the Irish Constitution violates EU law is above that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I'd like to see. Yeah, I'd like to see all the members have that. But certainly, since Scotland being a new member, I'd love to see Scotland do that. To say if you really want to be part of the EU,
with
If
all of
someone
that
has to hold them
said,
to reality, I mean, if Scotland leaves, they're going to be, in a world of shit for a while because they'll be the North Europe's Greece.
But I think that's also a positive that if they're poor and struggling, you can kind of push them into adopting the changes.
So we've got then we have time to mold them, and
the question that they're going to eventually push back.
By the hand into the real world.
yeah, but why
But
would we want a
like,
poor country made of Brits into our union?
well, they're not that poor. They're not that poor, actually. They have a lot of resources and such.
Yeah, but they would be poor once they are outside of the UK.
They would be poor Brits.
Maybe.
Yeah, but
maybe,
they're nice Brits.
Maybe
That's the
for,
thing.
maybe for a time.
So good Brits and the bad Brits, and you
And
can separate them this way.
I'm generally just not.
It's
Where-
ironic.
So
This
I'm
is
not a fan of
exactly
Brits
what
in
happened to India, and when India and Pakistan split up, there were massive movements of people.
Oh god.
So, can you imagine that happening in England
but
itself? That would be
this is
irony at top irony,
this is
really.
the real question here is this: is your wife a good Brit or is it on the bad Brit side?
Oh, she lives in the Netherlands, so she's definitely a good Brit.
Good, of course. Yeah, that's the other thing. I think most Brits in general, like they didn't live outside the EU. I think they live, not in their member state. I think the issue is they didn't ever want to integrate. They wanted to keep their pound. They wanted to give exception after exception after exception. And I hope if we do let Scotland in, please do not give them any exceptions.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, the requirements to enter the EU are very strict these days.
The exceptions aren't a thing anymore, so you can't join the EU without accepting all of the things.
It has to get the euro. It has to, that there's.
Oh, that's kind of. You said get the euro.
There's no way around it now. You can take as long as you want to implement it, but you have to do it.
That's the thing. Well, that's the thing. Like, where does it matter? When does it matter if I say you have to do? If you, I don't know, you have to do something.
Yeah.
Well, if I give you an infinite amount of time to do it, you don't ever really have to do it, do you?
Yes, but
there should be
politically speaking, there is a big difference between something like Denmark, which has an opt-out, and something like Sweden that doesn't.
Yeah.
Yes,
but Sweden will at some point adopt the euro. There's no question about it because they have to. But politically, the time is just there. So I mean,
And it's
the
not like
thing.
Europe can push for that in the future if it wants to. It's not like we don't have the tools to do that
Yeah,
in
the other
one way
issue
or
is
the other.
I saw
So
that business leaders actually pushing to adopt the euro. I know in Czechia, they were advocating to say, this is going to make transactions easier, which of course it will.
Yeah.
You don't have to deal with
Of
the
course,
exchange.
the other hand is, do you want to get rid of a coin that you've had for X amount of years, or that has
yes, because it's
a
shitty.
cultural
Yes,
tie to it?
yes,
But
yes.
I mean, we've all seen it, in large swathes of the EU that it does
But
work.
the difference is you're
No one
placing
cared.
coin.
We got rid of the franc, the Deutschmark, the lira. Who cares about the little krona that no one
My
uses
view is
that.
you're getting rid of one coin. You're getting rid of one coin and replacing it with a much better, superior coin. So
Yeah.
I
Now,
view it as
do
an
you use the
absolute win.
euro where you live?
Ireland uses the euro.
Yeah, exactly. You're in Ireland.
Ireland. It's part of the euro area.
Yeah, wonderful.
It's
Euro's our best zone. That's what I always say, and it's really true.
Of
I
course.
mean, we are the elite of the EU.
It is. It is. I would actually argue. I know this kind of hurts my pride a little bit, but I would argue the dollar area, as one EU politician, EU MEP referred to. I think it was the Lithuanian guy. I wasn't sure if he was. No, he wasn't an MEP. I believe he was the head of Lithuania, and he said, the dollar area. What makes it so strong is because of its fiscal transfer. Its fiscal union. That would make the euro area the best.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
However, what we have right now is this all being figured out on the fly. So
Yes,
I'm
what we have
really
right now
looking
is
forward to the next financial crisis. It'll be really interesting, which is actually what COVID is. So it's really going to the COVID pandemic is really going to change the landscape of the eurozone. I expect.
Who is it in the EU that doesn't use the euro? It's Poland, Hungary. Romania does use it.
It's
Poland,
the sad countries. Those are the ones.
Poland, Hungary, Czechia. Czechia is actually not doing that bad. Actually, I believe GDP wise, they are getting better. They would do better if they adopted the euro, though.
Yeah, they're keeping quiet.
And it's so weird when you see those Czech porn and they don't use the euro. They go there with those fake money, and so people will say, "What?"
Money,
So
that's not Europe, man. Come
yeah,
on,
it doesn't help them. They have to step up their game.
That's the other issue, is that you go to Prague. Prague is a beautiful, beautiful city, great trams and such. Then you have that terrible money.
Yeah.
Why? Take my euros, damn it.
Well, exactly. Come on, man. And going to Sweden, for example.
Why would you go to Sweden?
Yet another barrier, and
yes. Sweden is the Swedish krona. That's the other one.
So you don't go to Sweden. You go to Finland.
Yeah, true. I've been to Finland before. It's a lovely place. Very cold. What
does Norway use? Because Norway is an EEA.
Norway uses their own
krona. They actually Norway uses oil to pay. Literally oil. So
I mean, kind of. Yes.
Everyone just carries around cups of oil.
Yes.
Yes.
That's how they pay for stuff.
Here's a half a liter. Here's a half a liter of oil.
Yeah, exactly. It's just people driving around in giant tanker trucks.
That's how it works
fine, there. They're not an EU member. Like, that's fine if Norway doesn't want to use it. They can't vote on EU law. They kind of have to follow it, and they can't. At least they don't directly have any influence because they're not an EU member.
They are just an EU vassal, so they do what we tell them to.
They do contribute to the EU budget. I do believe so.
Yes, and they do what we tell them to do, which is nice.
What is the benefit of that for them? Since you have to contribute to the EU budget, you have to follow EU laws and such. I think they can
keep fish.
They have a little bit of freedom. Oh, is that it?
Yeah, pretty much. It's all about the fish. That's the biggest difference.
That's not that much. Fishing is such a small part of the economy.
I mean, it's not just fishing, but it's the biggest thing.
Yeah, like, I understand the water rights thing, like that makes sense to me. But focusing on fishing, like, I guess other than the water rights, like, that just confused me. Like, the UK is going to focus on fishing when you have your massive financial sector that you're not focusing on.
Well,
I heard actually Boris Johnson actually said, didn't he say, F business, so to speak.
Yeah.
Was that? He did.
Yeah, that was Boris Johnson. Wonderful bloke, by the way.
That was real.
Really sacrificed Britain for us.
Yes. He sacrificed the UK for the glory of the EU.
We love the man, and
Yes.
He reunited Ireland, which is also very nice.
yes.
Yeah.
In some ways, yes, he did.
Yeah. I mean, him and what's her name from the DUP?
Ariane Foster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She should get a statue. She should get a statue in Dublin.
Yes, we're contributing to the union.
Yeah, this is wonderful what you've done for us.
Yeah, never thought I would think she would be decent. Say thank you, Ariane Foster. Words I never thought I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much.
Yes.
But there are countries that to come back to the argument, there are countries that are in the euro but not in the EU, like Kosovo.
No,
I was going to bring that up. Yes,
kinda.
they adopted unofficially.
Not when it comes to Kosovo.
They are not paid with euros, so.
Kosovo
official
uses
members,
the
but
euro,
that's
but they're not part of the eurozone. So to
Yeah,
say.
they kind of use it. They kind of use it like
Illegally.
I think Zimbabwe used the US dollar for a bit.
Yeah, they use it
Yeah.
illegally.
They use it.
Don't have.
They use it, but they're not part of it. They don't.
Yeah, they can't print the money, so there isn't
Yeah.
a Kosovo euro. Meanwhile, stuff like San Marino and Vaticano and Monaco and all those small kingdoms we have around Europe.
They use the euro.
They
In
use
case
the
of
euro
Monaco,
because they have a bilateral treaty with the EU.
Yeah, isn't Monaco part of France? Is it, or is it independent?
No, it's a separate state. It's a microstate.
It's a microstate, like Andorra, the Vatican, all those little.
Yeah, and Vatican City, of course.
Yep.
Yeah,
That is true.
I mean, when it comes to the Vatican, we should just do what we did once in the past and just get it.
Yeah, you mean U.S. Italy? I've heard of. Can you expand on that? Because I don't know if everyone knows this.
So when Italy united, you had a campaign from the north going south, one from the south going north, and the best part, the one going south, from south going north, was a man doing it by himself. And so the king coming from the north didn't even know if he was going to have to fight him or not. Yeah. But he said, "Here, take it." So you had pretty much the whole of Italy united, and but Rome wasn't was the last standing place because it was the Vatican, and obviously back then in the past. You couldn't attack the Vatican that easily because, the Pope could call every Catholic country and fuck you up. Yeah. So, but they didn't have that much power anymore, so Italy just went and got it.
Yeah.
Then
except for that little tiny space, isn't it?
The thing is, the Pope never acknowledged Italy, like the Italian state. Then we got Mussolini, great man. Mostly when it's upside down, though. That's his best. That's his best.
That's the best way to see it.
Yeah. He did a pact with the Pope. The Pope said fascism good because that's what the Pope does, and said Italy is a thing, and we gave them the Vatican. So it's theirs.
Oh.
So it was in the end. It was Mussolini that gave the Vatican to
the Pope. Yep.
That's the final. Well, they can always try to join the EU, but I don't expect them to be.
I don't think they can because they are an absolute monarchy, and that's not allowed.
Yeah, exactly. They'd have to put in some reforms, which would be impossible for them.
Yes, I mean, granted though, all the people that vote on the new Pope, they do it in one building, so I guess it's kind of a democracy.
No,
I mean, no, because those people aren't elected. You know what I mean? Those people.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
No, that's
It's
not just about
there's an
that.
election, but it's not a democracy
Yeah,
because
even
you
if you
know.
elect people, if you elect a dictator, that's still not a democracy, you know?
Yeah.
The Pope has
But at this
absolute
point,
power. He is an absolute king.
An absolute
at
ruler,
this
exactly.
point, it doesn't matter though, since there are Vatican euros.
Yeah.
Yes, because they have a bilateral treaty with us.
Do they? Do they have? Are they?
I think so, if I remember right. I think I
You want to
saw
see? Do
them.
they have the Pope? Do they have Pope Francis's
Hey
face on it?
guys, can I just quickly interrupt because
Sure.
as you know, today is Europe Day. It is now just
Oh,
past midnight.
wait.
Um,
Oh, yeah. I
it's
was
And
gonna say I follow the council on Instagram, and
yeah,
they're posting Europe Day is Day. I'm like, wait, what? No, it's May 9th. So
yeah.
apparently, the Council of Europe celebrates it on May 8th, and the
Oh,
EU celebrates it on May 9th.
oh, for frick's sake, they
It's
had to
very
do that. Didn't
weird. Well,
they?
who cares what the Council of Europe thinks?
Yeah, exactly. Can we just expand that place?
Russia,
You know, it has Russia.
Russia. It has Russia, so it doesn't matter. Is Turkey in there? Is Turkey in there?
I think
no,
so.
I think
Let me have a look.
I think not, because
I
that's
mean,
not Europe.
I mean, at this point, why not let them in? Them, maybe Morocco too. Why not?
Well, I think
Won't change anything.
Tunisia should join the EU.
Wait, what?
Tunisia, yeah.
Yes,
definitely.
because
Tunisia?
Carthage.
Egypt should definitely try to join the EU.
Yeah, same.
Wait, what? What?
Yeah, we
Because,
just
you know,
need
you have to reunite Rome with Egypt. You know, it's
no
the perennial
Egypt.
love
Well,
story of
wait. Rome has to get Carthage. Egypt, we leave Egypt to the
Maybe we can
Greeks.
turn Egypt. Maybe we can turn Egypt into an EU vassal state. How about that?
I think it should go back to being
guys,
ruled by
guys.
Greeks.
I think the lesson for tonight is, you know, I think we should close it. It's been 2 hours.
Yeah, I think so
And
too.
let's continue
So
this discussion on the audio chat channel, and thank all our listeners for listening in tonight, because it was a nice discussion, wasn't it? We covered a lot.
Yes, I've been waiting to post this, but happy Europe Day, everyone.
Yeah, happy Europe Day, everyone, and we will be
great.
back next weekend if possible. So
same time,
tune in.
same bad people,
Yeah,
same channel,
you know, yeah.
and
Same thing as always. So thanks very much for listening, and come and join us on the chat in Forum Gottefunken, or
Of course.
as always, you can find the VODs both on Twitch and on the YouTube channel, and come join us in the Discord server. And good night. Bye bye.
Good night,
Night, everyone.
night.